While you were lying in the maternity ward, I sold your apartment in downtown New York for $65,000. My brother said it with a grin that twisted the air around him. Behind him, my parents and sister stood like villains who'd just pulled off a perfect heist, faces glowing with self-satisfaction. My name is Clara Weston. I'm 31. If you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. Do you ever feel a chill even when the room is warm? That's betrayal. It burns and freezes at the same time. I sat on the hospital bed a day after a C-section, still weak, clutching my daughter's tiny hand. The fluorescent lights hummed while Owen waved the property transfer papers like a trophy. You weren't using it, he shrugged. You have a baby now. You live with mom and dad. We just made things simpler. Simpler. The word cut deeper than the surgical scar on my stomach. Mom crossed her arms. Family sacrifices for family. Clara, be grateful your brother handled everything. Grateful for what? For losing the only thing that was truly mine. My voice cracked when I tried to speak. My sister laughed. Oh, come on. Don't be dramatic. It's just an apartment. Just an apartment. The apartment I'd saved for years to buy. Working 2 jobs, skipping nights out, cooking instead of ordering in. The place that was supposed to be my daughter's first home. A nurse peeked in, sensing the tension. I gave her a weak smile and a nod. Everything in me wanted to scream, but my daughter stirred and I swallowed the rage. Don't worry, I said softly, brushing my baby's cheek. You've taken your turn. Mine comes next. Mom frowned. What does that mean? I smiled. You'll find out soon enough. They thought postpartum exhaustion and grief would swallow my voice. While they gloated, I sat motionless and let them brag. Mom tapped her manicured nails on the bed rail. You were never good with decisions, Clara. It's better this way. Owen stuffed his hands in his pockets. I even got a good deal. You should thank me, $65,000 cash. You can start fresh. My jaw clenched so tight I could hear my pulse. I'd worked 6 years at an ad agency, sacrificing weekends and saving every bonus. That apartment was the first thing with my name on it. I still remembered signing the closing papers, the March lights spilling through the broker's office, the smell of cheap coffee, the tremble in my hand when I realized I'd finally made it. And now they were dismantling that dream like furniture to be split. Don't worry, sweetheart, Mom said, reaching for my daughter. She'll grow up surrounded by family. You'll stay with us until you figure yourself out. Her perfume, sharp and artificial, made me nauseous. I pulled my baby close. We already have a home, I said quietly. Dad laughed, dry and cruel. Not anymore, you don't. Something inside me settled, not fear but precision. They'd underestimated me. Always had. While they gloated, I opened the hospital drawer, slipped out my phone and hit record. Their voices filled the room. Owen listing the bank account, Mom confirming the sale, Dad joking about the buyer's sweet offer. Their admissions were clearer than applause. When they left, I kissed my daughter's forehead. Don't worry, baby, I whispered. Your mom's about to rewrite the ending. The next morning, while my family kept bragging, I sat in the maternity ward's window alcove with my daughter asleep beside me. My body still ached, but my mind was sharp, surgical in its clarity. I replayed the recording on low volume. Each sentence was perfect evidence. Mom confirming the sale, Owen mentioning his cut, Dad laughing about the buyer wiring money under the table. A confession wrapped in arrogance. I emailed the audio to myself, then to a new address I'd created under a different name. Insurance, a backup. If they tried to erase my proof, I'd still have a copy. By noon I called my lawyer, Tara Kim, a sharp, steady woman who'd once helped me buy that apartment. They sold it without your consent? She asked, voice tightening. Yes. And I have a recording. There was a pause, then a soft laugh, not amusement but disbelief. You might have just given me the easiest fraud case of my career. We met that afternoon in the hospital cafe. I wore my gown beneath a coat, clutching coffee and documents. Tara's eyes narrowed as she flipped through the forged transfer papers. They even faked your signature. That's felony-level stupidity. You'll get it back, she said. But we're not going to knock on doors. We'll let them open the door to the police. That night I fed my daughter and wrote in my grandmother's old journal. Her note inside, "Never stay quiet when truth is on your side," felt warm under my pen. 2 days later I was discharged. Mom wanted to pick me up, but I told her Ethan, a college friend, would handle it. They didn't know Ethan freelanced as a licensed investigator for Tara's firm. When we pulled up to my parents' house to collect my things, the air outside was syrupy with deceit. My sister opened the door in my silk robe, holding a mug that read Boss Babe. The irony nearly made me laugh. "Oh, look who's here," she smirked. "Come to apologize?" Ethan stayed silent, scanning the living room with calm precision. I caught the faint glint of his body cam under his jacket. "I came for my belongings," I said, "and my daughter's things." Mom entered, lips pursed. "You can take your clothes. The rest stays. We redecorated already." Redecorated, an attempt to sanitize theft. As they argued, Ethan leaned in and whispered, "They've hung themselves again. Financial intent, property conversion, moral bankruptcy. We've got what we need." Outside, my father followed us to the driveway. "Don't think a lawyer can fix your tantrum, Clara. Family doesn't sue family." I met his eyes. "Then you shouldn't have stolen from family." That night Tara filed an emergency injunction. Within 24 hours the court froze the funds from the illegal sale and placed a temporary restraining order on any further property movement. My phone rang at dawn. It was Owen. His voice cracked for the first time. You called the cops?" "Not yet," I said softly. "But they'll call you soon." Silence, then a shaky breath. "You wouldn't do this to your own brother." "You did it first," I said and ended the call. By Friday morning everything was in motion. Tara's filings had been reviewed. The forged deed, the bank transfers, and my recording formed a perfect triangle of evidence. When I woke to feed my daughter, Tara's message was already waiting. They'd withdrawn the $65,000 cash last night. "It's traceable. When the police come, they'll try to blame each other first. People who steal together rarely stay united." Outside the window, New York's hum felt different, no longer suffocating but alive. At exactly 2:37 p.m. my brother called again. "Clara, we can fix this," he stammered. "Mom said we'll pay you back once we sell Dad's property. Just don't escalate this." I looked down at my daughter sleeping in the bassinet. Sunlight crawled across the nursery wall. I kissed her forehead. "You'll never see me beg the way they taught me to," I whispered. Then I pressed end. "Too late," I said. "You escalated it when you sold my home while I was recovering from surgery." There was pounding on the line, someone shouting in the background, then my father's faint voice. "Who's at the door?" Through the phone I heard chaos. Voices overlapping, footsteps, a sudden silence, and then one phrase that made me close my eyes. "Police. Open up." I ended the call. My heart was steady. My hands didn't shake. Tara exhaled slowly across from me. "They didn't expect you to fight back." "No," I said. "They expected me to cry." Within hours the news broke. 3 family members detained in connection with fraudulent property sale. I watched it on the evening broadcast, holding my daughter while her lullaby mobile turned above us. The footage showed my father arguing with officers at their doorstep, my mother clutching her pearls, my brother pale and sweating as he was escorted out. My sister stood behind them, frozen, gripping her phone like it might save her. Tara called moments later. "They're being questioned separately. Your brother's already blaming your father for organizing everything." "Exactly as predicted," I said with a faint smile. "And your mom? She's pretending she didn't know about the forged documents." Tara's tone sharpened. "Unfortunately for her, your recording says otherwise." For the first time in months I exhaled without pain. That night the apartment felt quieter than usual. I fed my daughter while scrolling through an old photo. Me and Owen at the Brooklyn Bridge, both grinning long before greed became his language. "Do you remember when family meant something?" I murmured to the empty air. Then I shook my head. "No. They never did." By morning Tara texted again. "Judge approved full restitution request. Sale voided. Property title returning to your name within 72 hours. I stared at the message for a long moment, then whispered, "We're going home." 3 days later I stood in front of my apartment building, the same place they'd sold for $65,000. The door creaked as I unlocked it, and the familiar scent of oak floors and faint lavender from my old candles greeted me like a heartbeat I'd missed. My daughter cooed softly in my arms. "You see, sweetheart," I said, stepping inside, "sometimes justice doesn't need to shout. It just arrives right on time." That Friday the court finalized the ruling in my favor. Every dollar from the fraudulent sale was returned, plus penalties and damages. The prosecutor's summary was brief and brutal. Coordinated familial fraud against a vulnerable party. They called me the vulnerable party. But standing outside the courthouse with my daughter's stroller, I had never felt stronger. Reporters crowded the steps, cameras flashing. I gave one statement, clear and calm. Family should protect you, not profit from your pain. Then I walked away. 2 weeks later, I received a letter from my mother. The envelope smelled faintly of her perfume, sharp and cloying. Claire, it read. We didn't mean for it to go so far. Your brother was desperate. Your father didn't think you'd notice. Let's not destroy our family over money. I read it twice, folded it neatly and slipped it into the trash. There was no anger left, only distance. That night, Ethan stopped by with takeout. You know, he said, watching my daughter sleep in her crib, you could start something good out of this mess. I raised an eyebrow. Like what? Financial awareness programs. Help women protect what's theirs, especially new mothers. I smiled faintly. You think anyone would listen to me? He shrugged. You turned a nightmare into a case study. That's leadership. The next morning I called Tara. I want to start a non-profit, I told her. Something real, something that makes sure no one else has to face what I did. She paused, then said softly, now that's the Clara I met at the hospital. I looked down at my sleeping daughter and whispered, no, that's the one I was always meant to be. 6 months later, I walked into the freshly repainted lobby of my building, the one that once carried their signatures of theft, now fully restored under my name. A brass plaque by the door read, Weston Residences LLC. My name. My story. Legally sealed. Inside, sunlight spilled through tall windows, glinting off a framed certificate. The Weston Fund for Financial Justice. Tara was my co-founder. Ethan our advisor. We'd already helped 3 women reclaim assets stolen by their own families. That evening, I hosted a quiet gathering in the courtyard. No photographers, no speeches, just people whose trust had been broken and rebuilt. As dusk softened the skyline, Ethan handed me a glass of sparkling cider. You realize you've turned betrayal into a blueprint? I smiled. I just stopped letting shame speak louder than truth. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. We're sorry. We lost everything. Can we at least see the baby? I stared at the words, feeling the familiar tug of old loyalty trying to resurrect itself. Then I typed back. She's safe and she will never learn love the way you taught it. Book. Silence. Freedom. Later that night, my daughter toddled across the living room floor, her laughter echoing off reclaimed walls. I lifted her into my arms and whispered, this is ours. No one can sign it away. Out on the balcony, the city hummed like a living heartbeat. For the first time, I didn't need justice to feel whole, because wholeness was already here, breathing in the small, steady rhythm of a child who would never know betrayal. Some stories end with punishment. Mine ended with peace.